Hello, NIRSA. Welcome to episode 4 of Hidden Talents of NIRSA. I am your host, Dr. Wendy Windsor, current NIRSA president and serving as Director of Campus Recreation at Tulane University. I am pleased to have 5 panelists today that will share their experiences in the realm of officiating. This is an episode that I am truly excited about, as sport programs, intramural club sports is my background, is my bread and butter, as I like to say, in the field of collegiate recreation. So I am very excited to really engage in conversation, so everyone on the call can really hear more about what it's like to really dive at the higher level in officiating. We'll just hear about experiences, challenges, rewarding moments, and really look to have, like I said, a very awarding and engaging conversation. So before we really get started, I want to take the opportunity for everyone to introduce themselves. If you can say your institution, maybe how long you've been in officiating, and then anything else you would like to share with the group. And so we will actually start with Matt.
Good morning, everybody from the West Coast. I'm Matt Dunigan. I'm the Brick Operations Manager here at Cal Poly Pomona. I've been officiating basketball for not intramural sports, but I've been officiating collegiately now for about 7 years now, officiating at the Division II and the Division III level out west.
Thank you, Matt. Zach?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me this morning. My name is Zach Brost. I'm an Associate Director for Campus Recreation here at the University of Nebraska. I've been officiating for, I won't totally age myself, but over 20 years. And I guess my bread and butter as far as the officiating goes is college women's basketball. And I've been at the Division I level for about 15 years now.
Excellent. Thank you, Zach. Natosha?
Good morning, everyone. Natosha Harris, University of Kentucky, intramural director, but my title has just recently changed to assistant director for intramurals. You gotta love when they throw those changes in there. But I have been officiating women's Division I basketball, just like Zach, for about 15 years. Really enjoy it, and obviously got my start in intramurals, but that's where I stand, and that is the only sport that I officiate.
Great, thank you, Natosha. All right, Heather.
Hi, everyone. Heather Marshall from the University of Central Florida, the Assistant Director for Intramural Sports in our RWC Park. I've been officiating college basketball since 2016.
Great, thank you. Last but not least, Chris.
Good morning, everybody. Chris Morris, Associate Director of Programs at LSU, Louisiana State University. And I just completed my 11th season of officiating college football. And I officiate currently at the Division II level.
Great, thank you, everyone. So like I said, the overarching theme today and the title of this episode is Blowing the Whistle. So with that said, we're going to jump right on in with my first question that I have for everyone. So can you share a little bit about what brought you into officiating, and really what fuels your ongoing commitment to the art?
That's a great question, Wendy, to start off with. I started off probably just like everybody else on the call. I needed a job when I was an undergraduate student at Windsor University here. Started off officiating of all sports soccer, and then I just kind of worked my way up the ladder. And then out of my first job, I got my first professional job in recreational sports at the University of Central Florida, where Heather's from and working at now. And my eye-opening moment was attending Jim Wilkening's basketball class. I'm sure Heather will probably talk a little bit about that, but that was kind of like really eye-opening, just because that was the first time that I was in the same room with a lot of NBA officials, D1 officials, that had started off just similar how we were starting out in intramural sports. And so that was like the biggest aha moment for me, I guess you could say. At that time, I was just officiating intramural sports. I'd never done high school, never did college or anything like that. And then fueling my ongoing commitment was just seeing the success of individuals coming out of the state of Florida and southeastern United States, and how they run intramural sports a lot differently than what we do out west. And just the success of some of my colleagues that are out there, and now seeing them what they're doing now in the NBA Division I levels, just specifically from that one university in Orlando, is pretty crazy. And so that kind of fueled my passion to kind of say, you know what, I got to first move back out west, back home, closer to home, and then try to get my feet wet in college basketball. That's when I really started kind of getting after it, was when I moved back out west in 2016, and actually going to camps and investing in myself to try to get beyond just high school officiating. So
Excellent, thank you. Nice journey there.
So I think all of our stories are probably going to be a little similar. Obviously, I started in intramurals for me. What really kind of fueled me, though, was I was an athlete. So I'm like, of course I can officiate. What are you talking about? I played basketball. You know, and then I learned this is not that easy. I also learned very early that youth basketball parents are crazy. They push your limits. You learn a lot about being able to adapt. So that was interesting. But truthfully, kind of what really pushed me into it was the challenge of how can I be successful as this as I have been at other things? And then once I really got into it, I understood the boundaries that I was going to face. There were not a lot of women, at least that I saw in the field, officiating, especially when I went to games. Like I was like, oh, great, I'm the only one in here. This is awesome. You know, and how do you manage that and deal with all of the things that come with that? And the audience can leave that up to their imagination in terms of comments and how you're supposed to manage certain things. But I think more than anything, it was just the fuel and the desire to be better at something, to be able to accomplish a goal, and then also to be kind of a role model, particularly because I didn't see a lot of individuals that looked like me who officiated. I thought all of that was really, really important. And I think really fueled just what we do in intramurals in terms of accomplishing a goal, being able to be good at something, and how does all of those skills transfer to everything else that we do in terms of life skills and what we teach our students. And so that's kind of the ongoing fuel that I will say from kind of the start until now.
Excellent. And a really cool story that I want to share real quick about Natosha. I was all the way out in San Juan, Puerto Rico at a basketball tournament a couple of years back over the Thanksgiving holiday, and just sitting there cheering the Tulane team on. And I look on the court, I'm like, wait a minute, is that my girl? You know, and so that was really cool. You know, just to be in different places in different tournaments and recognize a lot of these individuals that you're going to hear from today. So that was really cool moment for me. So, all right, anyone else?
I'll hop in. I'm jealous that I didn't get to, go to the islands with you guys, but I think similar to everybody else, got my start in intramural sports, walked through my freshman dorm moving in. Mom saw a flyer that said the University of Nebraska with Zach, we're hiring some flag football officials. And she said, well, I'm not going to pay for everything. You better get yourself a job. So I wound up in flag football officials training. And from there, the love and passion for officiating began. So I got to give Zach props on here for getting me started and through the door, and everything that the University of Nebraska has set up. The Nebraska Sports Official Association that had set up gets the officials there that are interested, involved in junior high and junior varsity sports really early on. And that really just opened my eyes to what could be possible. And then, the ongoing fuel and what's kind of kept me driving is just a love for the game of football. There's nothing more exciting for me than waking up on a Saturday morning and being able to go to a stadium and officiate a game. And even on my off weeks, waking up with a cup of coffee and watching College Game Day is what I do on my Saturdays off. So it's still football. So really just a love for the game and everything else. And, love for sports all around. I've had the opportunity to officiate basketball and umpire baseball and things like that through the high school levels, and just being on the field or the court with athletes, giving them opportunity to play. is really exciting to me. And, even the crazy parents at junior high and youth sports, they drive you crazy, but you still can find some enjoyment in watching the kids be able to play and enjoy the sport that they're learning to play. And even if they're the one that stands underneath the basket and never touches the ball, you can see them like enjoying the time that they're getting to spend with their friends. So just a love for the game has really kept me involved in officiating.
Awesome, that is great.
Guys, jump in and say that it's satisfying for me to hear that sneaking into the res halls to deliver some well-placed flyers. It's good for me to hear that paid off.
I love it. And so we're definitely hearing some common themes, just about what got you all in and what makes you stay, and you're hearing about the challenges of dealing with the parents and just officiating in general. And those of us that are especially in sports, right? I mean, we think we know all it is about officiating, and actually sometimes we think we know more than the officials themselves, right? So could any of you share maybe something that is unknown or maybe just not as well known about officiating that you want others to know?
Yeah. So I won't try to speak for everyone, but I think one of the connections that a lot of people don't make, especially if they're not in this world, Natosha started to touch on it, is it's the transferable skills that are associated with doing what we do. You won't convince me that my experiences in officiating haven't made me a better professional. I mean, we could go down every path that's made me better in every avenue of my life. I think, just the organization, the attention to detail that's required to be successful at this level. I know that I use this every single day in my work. The ability to communicate, again, in this world, often across differences, with a wide variety of personalities. I see it, I live it every day of my work life. So for me, everything kind of bleeds together. Like I said, I'm not sure everyone necessarily makes that connection when they think about, the stripes that are running up and down the court, that they have other lives, and what we're doing here is actually making us better at what we do in our real life. So it just seems like all the areas of my life kind of intersect in some way. And with my age, I'd like to think there's some wisdom that's come along with that. When you kind of reflect on all these areas, I can kind of see that officiating is in the middle of successes that I've seen in all aspects of my life.
Great, excellent. Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, for me, something I think that especially non-officials maybe don't realize is just the time commitment behind being like a good referee, or really just refereeing past maybe something just recreational. I think once in a while some coaches think that we just jump out there and it just randomly got here and it's fine. But just between like film breakdown, like studying rules, videos, quizzes we have to take. And really that's just during in season, and maybe even, all the time that we spend in that off season, at camps or clinician at camps, or we're just, whether we're mentoring somebody or somebody's mentoring us, and having those conversations and breaking down the film. I don't think they realize it's pretty equivalent to having a second full-time job. It's not this kind of just part-time job. And then you put on top of that just the kind of the commitment you have to have of taking time away from family, taking time away from friends, and some personal stuff that maybe you would like to do. So for me, it's a commitment that we make. So.
Good. And that actually leads, I'm going to kind of jump around to another question that I wanted to ask a bit later, but Heather, you kind of started to touch on it, so I'm going to go ahead and ask it now. And it really is about like, how do you navigate, right, being an official and your full-time career in campus recreation? I really would like to hear from a few of you about that, if you could share with our listeners.
I think The biggest thing is just to be open and have that open line of communication with your supervisor. When you're applying for jobs, you're going to a new position, depending on where you are in your career, it's a little bit easier to have that conversation. Maybe if you're working within competitive sports, I think all of us are programmers or were programs at a time. I work in facilities now. I'm a lifelong intramural person now. But the reason why I switched over to facilities was mostly just so that way I can have that availability towards the end of the day, to get away from work and actually go officiate. And Heather hit the nail on the head when she talked about commitments. There's some weeks where, a lot of people don't understand that just because we're working at a certain level doesn't mean that we don't work the lower levels. So there's some weeks that you can go 7, 8, 9, 10 days in a row of working games if you're blessed at getting those assignments. That a lot of teams, they play maybe twice a week, maybe 3 times a week. Some officials are going through that time, but having that conversation with your supervisor is vital, just so that way they understand what your availability is, when you're going to be leaving for work. But then it's also having the responsibility of making sure that all your work is done before you leave the office, or at least that you're passing off to maybe your coordinator or graduate assistant, whatever the case might be, to make sure that you're not getting that call at halftime and you're looking at your phone, you got like 20 teams messages and communication from your staff saying, hey, we don't have access to this, or whatever the case might be. And so that was like one of the biggest changes that I've made so far. Part of it was moving out west, and that way I'm closer to family, but the other part of it was moving from a programmer standpoint to facility management, and being able to have that availability. That's kind of one of the things that one of my mentors told me. One of your best capabilities is availability, because you never know when you might have that call. Hey, I got somebody down. Someone's not making. They missed a flight. Hey, can you do the Division II game? And that might be your break. That might be your break to get hired in that division or get hired in that conference. So I would say that, like, for me at least, that's the biggest thing is working with your supervisor, but then also understanding that not to give up your bread and butter, your daytime job just to be official. There's gonna be more games and stuff like that, but at the same time, you don't want to be getting reprimanded, from your supervisor just because you wanted to go do a game. So that's my word of advice for up and coming officials. You just have that conversation with your supervisor, so that now you're all on the same page.
Awesome, great, thank you, Matt. And, Chris, I'm gonna turn to you because I know, you are still involved with programs, as Associate Director of Programs at LSU. So does this play out any different for you, or do you have any additional insight to share?
Yeah, I think Matt hit it on the head about that open line of communication. And as somebody that supervises people that go and do this, like the open lines of communication are exactly what are needed. And then, I'll echo a little bit of what Zach said earlier about the transferable skills. I think organization is one of the number one things that you have to be able to do this at a high level, is being able to plan out your months in advance. What camp am I going to? What clinic am I going to? As soon as you get that schedule from a signer, communicating that with your supervisor and getting that time in, or that schedule made that can be flexible and work around what you've got going on. And then, sometimes you do have to make the sacrifices when it comes to like your annual time and things like that. You might not, I'll bring back up the islands because I'm still jealous that I didn't get to go. You might not be able to take that vacation to islands. You might have to use 3 or 4 days of annual leave to go follow this dream and pursue what you want to do. So being able to make the sacrifices needed to keep the passion up and go do the camp or the clinic or the game, the travel on the Friday or the day before you got to officiate. It can be a taxing thing, but you have to be able to make those sacrifices if you really want to be able to do this at a higher level. And even at the junior high level, those games sometimes are at like 3 p.m. in the afternoon. That's not very conducive to the 8 to 5 work schedule. So if you're just getting started and just getting your foot in the door, you gotta make that sacrifice and maybe take some annual time to, like Matt said, sometimes availability is the best thing that you have for an assigner. And when they give you that call and like, hey, can you make this happen? I need you to be, across town for a 4 o'clock game this afternoon. And if you have that open line of communication with your supervisor and have the availability to go do it and can make the sacrifice to put in a couple hours of annual time to go do it, then you're probably that assigner's best friend, and you're gonna get more of those calls and maybe some more of those premier games that you're seeking out, those varsity level games, or the call into the collegiate ranks if you're lucky enough to get there.
Awesome. Great, Chris, and it's, you talked about, the sacrifices, and Matt, you did as well, and, I'm looking at all five of you, and I know that, numerous sacrifices had to be made throughout your career. So I wanna, switch the focus, right? Because it's evident to me that the sacrifices have all been worth it. So could anyone share some of the successes? I want to turn our attention to there, and really, what would you say are some of the biggest factors that have allowed you to be so successful at the higher level of officiating?
Yeah, I'll jump in there. I think that for me, I've been fortunate every step of the way, from breaking into Division I at a fairly young age to, finally working an NCAA tournament last year. There's the theme here is sacrifice. There's a lot of sacrifice that goes along with it from everybody in the support system, colleagues, friends, family, etc. And that's certainly part of the, part of one of those factors that plays into it. But, I think one of the things that I didn't appreciate so much until a little bit later in my career was just the groundwork that was laid as a young official. Chris mentioned it earlier. There's a pretty good infrastructure here on my campus to kind of get me started. My story is no different than anybody else's. I need a little bit of money, and I was an athlete, and I figured I could ref. How hard can it be? And I was just so fortunate that there were leaders in the program and mentors to me that got me involved at a young age. I think I was a college sophomore when I worked my first flag football game, and I just never looked back from there. They got me involved, they kept me involved, and that was really the name of the game, and they helped. I don't know if it was this strategic, but I struck a really good balance between my on-campus experiences where I was really honing my leadership skills as a young official and a young supervisor and all that, with getting the opportunity to go out and work some varsity high school games before I was really ready to. I had people that believed in me and really did a great job of helping me kind of come along. And then beyond campus, it's like I couldn't get enough, beyond my campus, the extramural tournaments, the experiences that I was getting as a 20, 21, 22-year-old kid. People don't understand the lessons I was learning and the skills I was gaining, just about learning how to be professional, learning how to take feedback, learning how to work with the different personalities. These are things that people in we'll say the real world, they don't get those experiences. They don't really learn that until much, much later in their career. So good fortune has played a lot, and I'd be remiss if I didn't give credit to my old supervisors and some of those people that took a chance on me and kept me involved. And then after that is just, for me, we're all a little bit off if we're pursuing this at this level. A high achieving personality doesn't allow us to settle. I think that's absolutely a factor. And then that support system that I mentioned, I've got a wife and 3 kids that have ridden the roller coaster with me. My biggest fans, I've got people that I work with here that are amazing. My team is fantastic. If I'm, working remote from a hotel room, I have no doubts that we can jump on a Zoom call and everything's just going to be handled. And they're there to support, right? I mean, that's anybody that says they did this alone. I'd love to have that conversation with them. So I get pretty long-winded, but those are just a few of the factors I think that have helped me out on my path.
Yeah, great, thank you. Anyone else, anything to add in?
I just have a couple of things just to kind of echo what Zach was saying about the communication and the path forward. When I moved out west, I didn't know anybody. that officiated. And one of my really good friends, John Conley, was at the time, I think he had just got into the G League or was in the pathway, and he had met JT Orr, who has long-standing official out west, NBA guy. He just put me in the email with him. Hey, this is Matt. He's moving out west. Can you help him get into officiating? He's got knowledge and stuff like that. And so JT was the person that connected me with where I was moving at the time to Riverside, California, with the local association, working with them and stuff like that. So that was a big vital part of just the starting off. And another thing that Zach brought up was the knowledge. I don't think a lot of intramural officials right now understand that the level of training that they're getting right now is pretty far down the road compared to random person that had maybe just, or mom and dad that just started out officiating just because their local association needed officials. A lot of the associations, unfortunately, do not provide the same amount of training that they're getting on campus, or if they're going to a regional tournament or a national tournament. And I'm not just saying that just because I'm on this interview with NIRSA or anything like that. It is something that I see every day, that my students can go and they know 3-person mechanics, they know 2-person mechanics, they know the gist of the rules of how to start a game and stuff like that, where a lot of people don't know how much work goes into being successful at that level, or even how to start a game. And when you need to go to captain, when you need to check the book, those little small things all officials do at the beginning of their intramural, and it's very transferable onto the court, just at high school games and being prepared for those upper division. And then the only other thing is just success is like, I think there's the consistency on and off the court. I always tell my crews when I'm the RN game, or even if I'm not on the RN game, hey, let's just make sure that they're waving us goodbye and saying and thanking us, as opposed to running us out of the gym. And that's very consistent with when I go to those gyms now. I don't do a lot of high school now, but when I do have the opportunity to maybe pop in and just observe or work a lower division 3 game or a junior college game, those coaches and ADs are like, "Oh, Matt, we haven't seen you in so long." That's a great feeling to have, as opposed to, "Oh man, we got Matt, Natosha, and Zach on our crew." Those are the ones that kind of give you a good feeling on why you do it on a consistent basis. And I think that just the consistency of personality on and off the court is big. So that way they're thanking y'all and happy to see you, as opposed to throwing their hands up and seeing when you walk in the gym.
Yeah, I love everything that Matt and Zach talked about. I mean, because those are the hidden gems, But I think a couple other things that I've definitely been able to learn is you have to take care of the little things. You have to understand the fundamentals, and that's that foundation that Zach talked about. And being able to then teach that to others is very, very rewarding. I think the other piece, and I express this anytime NIRSA has anything they send out to the officials, whether we're applying or we're encouraging our officials to apply for tournaments or clinics. But, of course, as professionals, when we're still applying for those tournaments and clinics, and they ask the question about, what do you gain from officiating? I always put adaptability. And to me, that ability to adapt to your environment, to who you're dealing with, to the crew that you're working with, to how you train officials, how you teach, how you learn is so, so important. And I think the last piece on kind of the success is the mentor piece. So going from being a student and an athlete who got into officiating because, hey, it's not that hard, to learning, like Heather said, all of the stuff that goes into it and the layers of that. But then to be able to be in a position to mentor, to teach someone else, the whole aspect of, yes, I am a Division I official, and I work very hard for that. I'm very thankful for all the opportunities, because I did not get here by myself. But the other piece of that is then being able to give back. And I have been very fortunate to be in a role to mentor many people. I'm not sitting here saying I'm super successful at it, but to check in with people and to see how they're doing, to provide advice in those moments or give suggestions or say, well, did you think about it this way? Could you have handled this better? Being able to learn that through the years of intramurals and all of those who supported us, and now to be in a professional role and do the same thing and teach those skills, but also at the college ranks to be able to have officials come to you and ask you questions, and they want your insight because you're honest and professional, and you'll tell them like it is, like, no, that's, you don't need to do that. Like, don't do that. You're going to get yourself in trouble if you do that, you know, those kind of things. Or, you know, that's a great suggestion. I would definitely encourage you to go that path. So I think those are a lot of the factors of success that you end up learning along the way, which goes back to just being balanced and being a better person, as it has been mentioned by my colleagues on here. So.
Can I
Yeah,
emphasize one piece with that, with her? It, like, that piece is super important to success, and something that I am working really hard with my staff here and just in general with is every time you feel some kind of success. So even if it's as simple as you got your first varsity game, you should look for the next person that you want to get that success and be working with them. And it's the only way we can continue to like build officials. And, you know, I know there's a misconception sometimes that if we encourage our students, student officials to go and do high school sports or do any kind of outside refereeing, that we'll lose them. If we invest in them and convince them to invest in the next person, they'll continue to come back even while they're doing it.
Yeah, thank you, Heather. That's such a great point, and I'm glad you wanted to make that. And what I'm really enjoying about just the conversation thus far is just hearing about all the lessons learned, right? And through the sacrifices that each of you are making, I mean, these are life-changing. Just it's phenomenal to hear. How could you think about just officiating at such a broad level, but to truly understand its impact that it's making has been wonderful. So would any of you be able to really share, like, has there been one significant lesson learned that has really impacted who you are, right? As both officials, but also just as people in general?
Sure. For me, the biggest lesson, and I think I'm still working through it, is I don't always have to be right. I don't have to have the last word. And really that connects back to communication, right? So I can be stubborn, and if I know something, especially if someone's saying something incorrectly, like I want to correct it, I want to make sure I'm right. But anymore, like coach wants to yell, I just say I understand. It's kind of the phrase I go to, or I use fair enough. Doesn't say they're right, doesn't say I'm right. I've learned to take my ego out of it, doesn't matter. And so I've been able to connect that even to like my personal relationships, my professional relationships. You know, if I disagree with a supervisor, I disagree with somebody at work, I don't have to be right. It doesn't actually matter. And so figuring out how can I just have that communication to get to where we need to be, whether I'm right or I'm wrong, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, Heather, I love that term, fair enough, right? I kind of wrote that down because if we all think about just the day-to-day interactions we have with people, right? That fair enough will take you a long way. So that's excellent.
I can hop into the lessons learned. I think early on, I started to learn this lesson because I am a meticulous person and want to be perfect and do everything right. And I think everybody on here would agree that when we step onto a field or a court, we want to call the perfect game. We want to get every call right. We want to be in the right position to do that. So I really focused on that so hard that I think it got in the way of just improving, just picking one thing to work on and getting better at that every day. So, you know, I don't know if it was Zach or somebody else in Nebraska told me, you know, pick one thing during this game to get better at. Don't pick it all. You can't go from just stepping on the court for the first time to perfect in one game. You're not going to get it all right. So pick one thing to work on. Pick the positioning for this. You want to get, I'll use basketball because you guys are all basketball people, you know, work on your positioning at the C, you know, make sure that you're in the right spot to make those calls and see the plays that you need to do. Same thing can be, you know, said about a football field, making sure that you're in the right spot to see the right thing. So I think it's really about, you know, not letting perfect, not letting, you know, I have to get this right. Or when you know when we've all made the call where you throw your flag or blow your whistle and you're like, dang, I want that one back. I wish I wouldn't have called that one. It didn't match the game. It wasn't there. I got fooled. I got tricked. But you can't sit on that and let it ruin the rest of your game or the rest of your time. It's something that, we're all blessed with film and things like that we can look at it and we can figure out why did we get fooled? Why did we miss it? So that we can get better. But we gotta move on from that play and not drag ourselves down. So I think it was really learning that being wrong is okay. And we're gonna get better from it and move on and next time that play comes up, I'm gonna get it right because I don't want to get it wrong again. So I think that, to echo Heather, that played into making me a better professional as well. I didn't have to be, I learned early on that you don't have to be perfect. I'm going to make mistakes and make the wrong call or the wrong judgment on how to handle a situation or say the wrong thing in a conversation with somebody and being able to go back and, I kind of call it, it's pretty much film review. When you go back to somebody like, hey, I think that came across wrong. I think I didn't mean that to come across the way that it did to you. And I apologize for that. Or being able to look back on a situation that, you're getting feedback from your supervisor and they're telling you like, I probably wouldn't have handled it that way. You did. So we're going to move on from it. But next time you might want to think about, handling it this way or another way. And you just, you get better and you don't have to be perfect. We're never going to be perfect. I don't think any of us on the call would say we're perfect at officiating or perfect in our career, but we're striving to get better in one way or another every day, and do things a little bit better. So learning that lesson early on was really important, and I think has contributed to a lot of successes, both officiating and in my career as well.
Awesome, thank you. And Chris,
Nice.
I may stay with you for a second because I'm about to switch focuses just a little bit. And for those listening to the call, right, that may be on the fence about, hey, maybe I'm officiating as just within intramurals right now and considering maybe making that next step, but I don't know. Like I said, I'm on the little fence a little bit. Share with me maybe your most rewarding, right, moment that hopefully could inspire someone that, yeah, this is a step that I want to make.
Yeah, I've got a lot of rewarding moments in officiating, so I'll try to keep them succinct. I think, and people have mentioned this, the first time you get to work at that next level, every single time is a rewarding moment. The first time you get to work a varsity game in high school, the first time you get to work a JUCO college game, the first time you get to work a D3 game. And, for me, the first time I got to work a D2 game, every single one of those was a rewarding moment. It was showing that the hard work, the dedication, the sacrifices, all the things that we've talked about on this call already were coming to fruition, and that it was working towards something that, you want to do. So, the word of advice that I would give the person on the fence about, man, maybe I'm just an intramural official. I don't know if I want to do this as anything more than that. Give it a shot. Go out there and try it. If you love it, great. Hopefully you find a passion and it turns into more and more. If you don't like it, if it's like, man, I don't think I can deal with coaches and things like that, that's okay. But at least you try, and at least for yourself that, all right, I gave it my all, I gave it my shot. I wanted to see if it worked for me. It did, it didn't. That's just the result of taking an opportunity and giving it a try. I think personally, a really rewarding moment through NIRSA was being elected into the NIRSA Flag Football Hall of Fame. That was a big one where, thank you. It was a big one where, took a lot of those times in college of, going and working a Friday night varsity football game instead of going to the bars with your friends or going out and having that fun moment and the sacrifices that were made there. As as little as that may seem and as punitive as that may seem for a college student, that's a big deal to go out and work a game instead of hang out with their friends and do the social atmosphere on the campus that they may have wanted to. So I think that was a really cool one that just showed that, hard work and dedication can lead to some really cool moments and some really cool recognitions. And then, this is a little bit off skelter from the officiating world, but to me, my most rewarding moments right now, every year that I get done, I've worked with the same football crew for, I think we just finished our 5th year together, and pieces have come and gone and things like that. But some of the more rewarding moments right now are getting invited to their weddings or their kids' weddings, or getting invited on a vacation to go skiing together and things like that. Like, it's the camaraderie that you're able to build with those fellow officials and do that means you're doing something right off the field as well. You're a pretty okay person to be around, and the people want to enjoy the extra time with you. It's not just a on the field, on the court type of situation. It's let's hang out outside of work and go have some opportunities to really get to know each other, or celebrate those life moments that they're having as well. That they want you to be a part of that you're not just an official to them. You are a human and a friend and things like that. So I think right now, those are some of the most rewarding moments that I've been able to do. I've been able to go to one of my crewmates' weddings when he got married. Been able to go to one of my crewmates' kids' weddings because he wanted us all to be there. And then every year, one of them goes on a skiing trip, and we all get the invite. And I haven't gone yet. I need to. But a couple of the guys have taken advantage of that. So I think that's one of the rewarding moments that's taking place right now.
Thank you.
Love all the stuff that Chris talked about. I'm sitting here listening to him and I'm like, yeah, those are good times. Those are good times. Those are good times. I think I've been very fortunate and also very blessed to have a lot of rewarding moments through my officiating and intramural career, which has been great. I think the ones that have meant the most, truthfully, though, yes, going on the Thanksgiving holiday trips with other officials, that is really awesome. And I know that not everyone gets a chance to do that, so I would consider those bonuses. But the rewarding ones have been, truthfully, being at a NIRSA tournament, and it happens to be at the same timing of a postseason tournament. And literally, like, I'm actually at the same school as the tournament, and being able to do the game at the end of the tournament, because it just happened to fit well. And this particular one year that I got that opportunity, my students actually got a chance to watch me work a postseason game. And you couldn't line that up if you wanted to. But the looks and the support on their face, and this wasn't an easy game by any means, I would definitely say that was probably one of my most rewarding, is to give your all to what it is that you do. You train your staff, you walk them through everything. And then in a moment of perfect connection, they get a chance to see everything that you taught them in front. And then, of course, on the ride back, they critique you on what you did well and what you didn't do well and all those things. But I've been able to have a couple of those moments, or just seeing those students now be in the NIRSA field or in recreation, whether it's Parks and Recs or Special Olympics, and being able to watch them give back. I would say that those have been the rewarding moments that I think I cherish the most. Individual success is great for sure, but I really enjoy being able to watch others shine and support them in those moments. And if they can at some point be able to watch me shine and support me, I think that's a small reward. But the bigger one is taking what we have taught and watching others be able to gain success in those moments. So that's what I would say is a rewarding moments over a career.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you all so much. And so for the sake of time, I'm actually going to wrap us up. But I do want to, first of all, just take a moment to thank each of you, right? I know coordinating our schedules, I think Matt, you get the golden star because you're on the West Coast and it is currently 7 a.m. his time. So kudos to you for being here with us today. And I do hope that, through our conversation, we've encouraged others to really want to do this, right? For all of the numerous benefits and lessons learned that y'all have shared, and whatever their dreams are, right? It's just about really making that commitment and really saying, this is my passion and this is something I want to do. So thank you all again. Thank you, NIRSA, for taking the time to be with us today. And I look forward to hopefully seeing many of you in April in Phoenix at our annual conference. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you.